And it got worse from there for Indians pitcher Trevor Bauer. He got rocked in Monday's start, gave up 8 runs on 10 hits. You know, maybe he should take some time to think about his poor performance. Or maybe he should just die. Those aren't my words. Just a small portion of the massive amount of hate he got on social media after that start. He shared a few on Twitter. I want to share them with you. On the left here, bro, you were the biggest bleep ever seen. How do you let the White Sox smack the bleep out of you? The one in the middle just makes me nauseated. Leave the bleep team and die in hell, piece of bleep. I really hope you and your family die in a car crash. And it's actually going to happen. Please die. Please. I beg you. And then could you please kill yourself? Name calling, derogatory terms, all for losing a baseball game. Bauer decided to take the hate directed at him and use it to send a very loud and precise message.
I'm an adult. I can handle it. It's not going to affect me, right? But what if it's a 14-year-old kid at school that people are saying that stuff to him after he lost the freshman baseball game, or after he just showed up to school wearing something that the other kids didn't think was cool? Like, I went through that in high school. Everyone made fun of me for what I chose to wear, or like how I warmed up for baseball, or what I talked about, or the fact that I was in chess club or liked robotics or stuff like that. And I got bullied and harassed nonstop. And now it continues on social media, and it's like, it makes it really hard for kids to develop self-confidence, for kids to develop just any sort of confidence at all, to develop a positive self-image, to develop a peer group, to live a productive life. Like, it's one of the reasons that suicide rates are so high and there's school shootings and all this different stuff, because like this action is common. And like I said, it happens to me all the time. I just decided last night to post it because, you know, I don't post 99% of it, but it needs to be brought to light.
And for it to stay in the light. We live in a society where shielding yourself behind a keyboard in order to tear someone down is way too commonplace, brushed aside as if this is how we now act. I too was ridiculed in high school, teased for braces, humiliated for having acne. There were days I begged my mother not to drive me to school. And there wasn't social media at the time to remind me of the inferiority to my peers. This has to stop at all levels, sports or school. We have to take responsibility as parents and mentors to teach our youth that their words do leave scars. Their hate speech seeps through. It's not okay, whether you're 13 or 30. Time to back off from the bullying and hold those accountable who do. We can be better. We have to be better. And shining a light on the issue is only the beginning.